Doing this is Cyper Behike Sana Cody, straight out of the TainoFunHouse. It's pretty late, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, New York City, Manhattan. Just going over my notes here. Gonna wait to see who comes. What I love about lives, it's always archived. You can always look at it in the future. So just gonna wait a little bit, going over my notes. I thank you for in the future. Thank you for downloading this show. Really appreciate it. Thank you all those who subscribe to the channel. I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to get more organized as possible. Trying to get more content in the Taino way. Okay, I'm going to start. Basically, I'm doing this live dedicated to the Naguake Indigenous community. And what does that mean? Well, a lot of people think that Naguake Indigenous community doesn't exist. Similar to the Taino, they say it doesn't exist. Um, Not too long ago, someone relayed a message to me about someone had mentioned Nahuake, and not in a positive way, but in a negative way. A lot of people don't know, but I spent at least 3 years in the Nahuake community in Boninquen. I was given the Guayacan staff, which is right here, has my name carved in it, and this was done in a ceremony in Abate in Comerio. And the reason I was given this staff by the community of Nahuake was to bring people to build a bridge between the diaspora and the island of Borinquen. I'd like to thank all of you who are live with me. So I spent a good 3 years actually visiting Borinquen, going to the ceremonies, visiting the grandma councils, and doing a lot of work on the grounds after Hurricane Maria. So what happened was I met a lot of the community members. I sat with them, um, how I can help after the Hurricane Maria, and a lot of stuff went down. A lot of positives, a lot of negatives. I learned a lot of stuff about the government and how sometimes it can be very corrupt when it goes to helping people. And I also learned firsthand how people outside of the Nahuatl community were not as supportive of this indigenous identity. Hey, how you doing, Diamond? So, so basically, I learned firsthand the resistance on the island and how ignorant was I. You have Boricuas, you have people who through the years have formed this community called Nahuake, which means my abundant land or our abundant land. Excuse me, um, our abundant land. Comunidad Nuestra Tierra Abundante. And how did that name came about, Nahuake? Well, Dr. Yare Melendez, who was the founder of the community, as an anthropologist from the University of Puerto Rico, Bayamon, she interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people on the southeastern part of Puerto Rico, which we call Yabucoa, which is her hometown, San Lorenzo, Espino, all those beautiful towns out east. That's El Cacique. Oh wow, I just went blank. Um, Yukibo's territory, Cacique Yukibo's territory. Wow, can someone help me? I just went blank. Así que Omagao. Um, so there's a lot of history in the southeast. The resistance was really really tough. Um, there's places in you find in Macau where they found skeletons and armor of the Spanish invaders. Not one skeleton was indigenous. Most likely they were buried or they survived the battle. So there was a lot of battles that went on there, and there's a lot of good history in the southeast region. National Geographic came before Hurricane Maria and started doing DNA testing on the people, and it was tremendous results, mostly from the A2 haplogroup, also the B haplogroup, and the C. A is mostly what you find your migration from the north, also from Mexico, the Mayan people. Then you got your B's, which comes from the Andean mountains, and then you have C, which comes from Venezuela, Colombia, the Arawaks. So through this DNA study, they created this beautiful narrative that in Naguake, in the southeast region at least, there was all these different peoples that came through different migrations, and these beautiful communities were built. And we all know in 1492 and so on, the devastation occurred. But the communities kept thriving, even though the extinction myth, the erasure was full force. And I just want to say it's still in full force. This whole genocidal campaign, not just from people don't know about Taino or hate Taino, but also within our community, the Puerto Rican community, and so on, which is so sad. I witnessed this firsthand when I saw some of the resistance from the Christian community in Puerto Rico. Both Catholics and evangelicals, there was a little hesitancy in embracing their indigenous Caribbean heritage. But that's, you know, in the Caribbean, we all evolve. Many of us became Christian, Catholics, Mormons, you name it. A lot of religions are in Borinquen and the Caribbean in general. But here's the thing: when I was given the staff, I was told bring people to the island, help them learn. So right after Hurricane Maria, I started bringing some people to the island. This is around 2017, 2018, and it was an initiative to farm, to bring back the farming system in Nahuatl, to rebuild that, and also the bee industry business. We had a beekeeper, and we visited the areas, the land where the bees were. All you guys who've been there, you know what I'm talking about. We got attacked by some bees. That's a different story for another time. But man, we earn our bites. I got bit like 8 times. So thank God I'm not allergic to bees. So so I was given the staff, and I also have this Nahuatl flag, which is it has Yokahu. Wait, hold on a second. I just want to show you. This is the Yokahu, and those stars are the first communities of Nahuatl, the different tribal towns. Green represents the earth, blue the water, and the rivers. You can see those stripes coming down Yokahu. Those are the rivers of Borinquen, the major rivers in the southeast region. Sorry about that. It's falling apart here. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. So around 2018, we had a farming program where we people from the diaspora was learning for the first time how to farm in the indigenous way, and it was a beautiful, beautiful thing we did. And man, that sun really hit us hard. There was one point where I got sick because of the altitude, altitude sickness. So I learned how to respect the land, how to respect the air, how to respect everything. So man, we really had a good time. We were living on the land up in the mountain and on Comerio. We even had a, what do you call that? Uh, a latrine, which lasted a whole week. So we were really camping out. So this is what Nahuatl was about. Was about teaching the local people in those mountains and also bringing people from the diaspora. So let me backtrack. Hold on a second. Okay, so a couple of days ago, someone online was saying that Nahuatl indigenous community was fake. It wasn't a real community. And there was a rift between the government of Puerto Rico exposing the fakeness of Nahuatl. Well, I just want to say that Nahuatl indigenous community was the first community since the invasion, since the Spanish invasion in the 1500s, that was attacked. It was attacked, and the people in Nahuatl were evicted. If you look at some of my prior videos, if you go on the website, it's called Naguake. Hold on a second. I'll tell you the exact. Nuestra tierra abundante.whipley.com. What I want to do, I want to put it in the description. Eventually, I'll put it down there. You can look it for yourself. Dr. Yare Melendez, who's no longer with us, she died in 2021, unfortunately. But she left an archive information of photos, events, and so on. And she wanted to do this. She personally told me that she wanted to do this so people can understand what Nawaka is. So after all these years, finally, well, in 2015, Nawake was attacked by the academy and by people in the community. And I thought Yade addressed that really perfectly through action. Oh, I just want to say another thing before I forget. I'm sorry, I'm kind of scattered here. Nawake was receiving funding from the United States government. You know, the tribal governments, federally recognized tribes, they receive money by treaty. They receive money from the federal government, freedom for housing, for food, different job projects, and so on. It's in treaty law. So for some reason, Dr. Yare Melendez, in her brilliance, she managed to get some funding that was left over from those federal funding from the Bush administration to the Obama administration and then to the Trump administration. According to the history of the finances, Nawake received most money from the Bush administration, George W. Bush, and slowly it started decreasing. And after Hurricane Maria, they lost 90% of their funding under the Trump administration. And to go back in time, what was that money used for? Well, that money was used for a lot of things, especially paying the teachers and paying the local activists to come and build a community, an indigenous community. Also for events, and most notably to start a program in the school system. At one point, the Nahuatl language system was 45 schools in the southeastern region. After Hurricane Maria, it was down to one in Comerio. So in 2000, okay, I just want to address that it says that the local government um, in the southeast region exposed Nahuatl as a fake community, as deceivers of the culture, and so on. And this was from the people in Puerto Rico. And in 2015, it was brought up by Professor Hyslip of City College, who's not a friend of the Taino people. He thinks we're not real. He thinks we're fake. So hold on a second. I'm just going through my notes here. Hold on a second. Um, yeah, so there's a lot of people in the academy. There's a lot of people in the community in the Caribbean in community that don't really think Tainos exist, and we're always being shut down. I'm just gonna move this a little. So Dr. Gabriel Haslip Vieira In 2015, wrote a paper about the Taino movement, pretty much blasting it as fake and Neo-Taíno and blah blah blah. And this is what he wrote. He says Puerto Rican islanders joke that the Neo-Taínos would establish their own casinos. And then in parentheses, he put gambling casinos already exist in San Juan. But there are other possibilities. This is his, and I'll post this on the link down, after I finish the show, I'll put down his article so you can see it for yourself. I just want to say that the Gabriel gambling is an indigenous invention here in the Western, and this is why many indigenous peoples do have casinos. A lot of it because it's in their own traditions, the gambling, but it's a little different because historically, when clans or bands would gamble with one another, the winner, it could be it could be animal hides, it could be food, whatever. They would share that with their family, with their clan. Then next time they gamble, maybe another clan person wins and another clan wins, but they always share what they won, and it was a very steady economy. So this is traditional gambling. So by Puerto Ricans joking that Neo-Taínos will establish their own casinos, well, guess what? In the islands, that whole gambling thing still exists, right? Well, a lot of it is fun. Just go to a domino game, right? Now, he also wrote the leadership of the alleged indigenous Naguake community in eastern Puerto Rico organized tours of the pre-Columbian Taino archeological sites, which the Neo-Taínos were also like to influence or control under the Native American Graves Protection Act, which we call NAGPRA. Well, let me just say one thing right now. I met a lot of those leaders, and it's always about sustaining the community. You have to find ways to sustain the community so it can live on. We all do this. If you have a family, everyone gets a job. We need food on the table, you know. We have to create a form of capitalistic opportunities to keep the family going, to keep the tribe going. Everyone does this. This kind of society we live in. If you don't do it, you're gonna be swallowed. You're gonna drown. So in Naguake, the leadership, what they did was they started educating the island about colonial erasure, and they started highlighting, hey, we're surrounded by 28 ballparks, bates. Why? And like I said before, close to 45 schools were adopted the Naguake program, which is it was a full um, cultural program that was in the actual public schools. So he's talking about um, organizing tours. It was educating the people, especially the children. Naguake had a philosophy which was very unique, and it still is. If you teach, it's the children that need to learn, and it's the children that will teach their parents, because their parents, their grandparents, the majority of the people in the island of Puerto Rico have been colonized. So when you expose the children to the historical sites, to the language, the children will choose. And if they embrace this, they bring it back to the house. I witnessed this, and Dr. Yare got slammed for this many times. I even challenged her. She would tell the children in every class, "Who is Taino?" And you see all the children lifting up their hands, and then she's like, "Excuse me, who's Taino?" And the children will look at each other, and maybe half their hands will go up, and she'll go, "Wait a minute, who are the Taino here?" And you got one brave child lifts up their hand, you know? And then she says, "No, no, 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 we're not Taino. We're not Taino. We're something different." And she would teach them how the evolution of Taino culture grew after the invasion, that were not the same as the Taino culture in 1500s, with something totally different. So what she would do is she'll teach the culture, the tradition. She'll teach the Hibaro culture and the current culture, and then she'll teach them the language and so on. She'll teach them about the African influence, the Spanish influence, especially the language, right? And then she allows the child to choose who they are, and many of them identified as indigenous through this identity as Naguakeño, being in part of Naguake, my abundant land, or our abundant land. Oh, I forgot to explain. She did a study with the Jibaros up in the mountains and all the families, and she asked them in different regions, "What do you call this land? What do you call this? Do you have a name for the land?" And they kept saying, "No, esta tierra es abundante. This land is abundant. You can throw a seed, and tomorrow it's gonna grow into a plant. That's how abundant this soil is." And then she translated that into Nahuatl. All these different mountain regional villages and towns, they all had the same word, abundance. The land is abundant. Our land is abundant. So that's what a Nahuatl means. So did they do tours into these pre-Columbian Taino archaeology? Yeah, sure they did, but I don't say they're tours. I said it was educating the people, outreach. And he's making it sound like they make all this money and trying to exploit these sites. Did you know that Nahuatl plan protest sites when they destroy a river in Omagawa? It was Nahuatl that was there protesting. Look at the website. I want to put the poll. You can see all the marches. You can see all the protesting, the courts. They even went to court. Now it says here, the doctor also says that Naguakeños also created a replica of an indigenous pre-Columbian ceremonial center for visitors on public land that was allotted to them for a vocational program for an organization under contract to the island government. That's pretty loaded. I'm gonna write this quote in the description so as well, so you can see what he's talking about. So he's saying that Nahuaqueños created a replica of an indigenous pre-Columbian ceremonial center. I met many of the people, and I got this firsthand information from Yade herself. And you can see the photos in the website. She managed to excavate the land that was given to her by the Popular Party, um, which is one of the three parties in Puerto Rico, the Populares. They gave them land in 2008. So she did some excavation work as an anthropologist, and she invited some archaeologists to survey the land. And what they found, it was an ancient bate. It was an ancient bate. So what they did was they got stones from the mountains, and they brought the stones through volunteers. These are volunteers, construction people, parents from the school program, and they brought these stones into the original area where the original bate was. So what he's saying that is a replica. I like to dispute that it's not a replica. Okay, it was a living, action-packed, true bate that was recreated through the sweat and the hard work of all those volunteers that went up the mountains to get those stones in Yawakoa and brought it down to the land in Yawakoa that the Populares gave them to start a community there, an indigenous community. And in that indigenous community, there were different programs that were for the children. Remember the 45 schools I was talking about? Well, they did a whole courses in Spanish and Taino. They did or the restored Taino language that she created. Also, that was, believe it or not, it was accepted by the Puerto Rican government, that language, the Department of Education. Look it up if you want to disagree with me. Let me see. replica. I just lost my. Okay, so the Populatic Party, they gave the land to Yare, they gave it to the Naguakeños, they built an organic farm, um, school system, and also for high school dropouts, and they also created schools for them. There was also a soup kitchen. All these photos can you see on the website. So programs were very active for children, high school students, and there's that soup kitchen for the families. Um, Now, here's another quote. It appears that it was not made clear to visitors that the ceremonial center was a replica and not genuine. I don't know where he's getting his information from, but if I don't know about you, but you can sense that there's some shady stuff going on there. But she was very clear that this was a ceremonial area. This was about an ancient bate, and they built over it. They built over it. It's not replica because they are indigenous, these people. Okay. Here's another quote. It was also deemed upon inspection by agents of the island government that the Naguakeños were misusing the land. That's another claim. Misusing the land. How can you misuse the land if you got an organic farm? Okay? A soup kitchen, classrooms teaching children the culture, the language, the dances. Soup. I said soup kitchen already. How is that misusing the land? And that the vocational education for troubled youth were riddled with Neo-Taíno propaganda. What are you talking about, Neo-Taíno propaganda? Nobody was forced. Okay? These were kids that were from the school program who enjoyed the language, enjoyed the culture, and they were given land by the Populatic government party in 2008. Hey, what's up, man? I like your comments. Thank you. Sounds like another invasion. Yup. So here's another quote. And primarily used to persuade the young Puerto Ricans with the right kind of indigenous maternal mtDNA to self-identify as Taino. You know, it was National Geographic that came to Naguake and asked if they can do that study. That was back in 2012. You can look it up. It's in the website, the results. No one was forced. They went to the grandmas and they were invited. They weren't forced or anything. And I saw firsthand, you know, people will say Indio, they'll say Naguakeño, you know, rarely will say Taino. This whole thing about forcing people to identify Taino is totally wrong. I walked those streets. I walked those mountains. I spoke to those people, especially after Hurricane Maria. Let me just tell you right now. In 2009, there was a big election between, you know, all the parties, and the Popular Party lost. Before the election, Yare was trying to get written how can I put this, written proof that this is given to the Naguakeños. So what happened was they put a hold on it until after the election. And guess what? The Populares lost the election. So the new government, which is the PNP, right, which are in power right now, decided, I guess through all these lies, falsehoods, that they were going to take over the land. And they had to throw everyone off. They were evicted. Okay? Let me just get my notes for that one. Hold on a second, everyone. Sorry about that. Okay, so now remember, this is all in Yabacoa. Yabucoa. So basically, when the PNP people came into power, the PNP said, we're taking back the land. So Yade was like, wait, there's a law here in Puerto Rico that states if you're going to take a land from a community, you have to have a community debate, or you have to have a public hearing. So she fought for a public hearing, and they were given a public hearing. Who went to that public hearing? The children, the grandmothers, the grandfathers, the parents, everyone who was part of the program of the soup kitchen, all those volunteers that took those stones from the mountains, all those teacher volunteers who helped the youth, the troubled youth. They all were at the fair, the public hearing. So what happened? The PNP government said, I'm sorry, we're taking the land. We need it. So they were evicted. Okay? They had no legal documentation for the land. So the PNP took it back. Now you're probably wondering, well, what did they do with this land? What did the PNP and the local government in Yabucoa, what did they do with the land? Did they have better ideas for it? Did they wanted to help the youth? Well, they were accused of being inappropriate with the programs, right? So what did they decide to do? Does anyone want to take a guess? What did the PNP government do? The local PNP government in Yabucoa, what did they do with the land? Does anyone know? Can anyone take a guess who are listening right now? What did they do with the land? Now remember, Naguake, their goal at the time was to practice cultural sustainability, ecological stewardship, education, operating community programs in the schools and the community, the language, reach out to the rural youth, their parents, and so on. Finally, they got this land. They were evicted. What did the PNP people do? Let me tell you right now. What did they do? They created a garbage dump. Because according to history, Yabucoa, 2008-9, 2009, after the election, they secured funding from the federal government to build housing. All right, I get it. We need housing. But guess what? The Naguake community, it used to be an cacique Huaraca. That was his Yucayeke. There's archaeological evidence that there was a bate there. There's also archaeological evidence there was a burial ground there. And they turned it into a garbage dump. There's a video I posted. You can look it up. They created a garbage dump. They needed a garbage dump to put all the garbage at the site that we're going to build these housing units. So they took a Taino historical site that Naguake was accused of doing inappropriate stuff to make it into a garbage dump. Can't make this stuff up. Can't make it up. And Naguake fought very hard to try to get the land back, and they lost. Up to the point where they said that we can't grow land, we can't grow there anymore, we can't grow organic farm there anymore because of the toxins from the garbage. Now I managed, and I posted a video. I did a ceremony, back in 2000, I believe it's 2018. I got access to the land, to the garbage dump. You can't get in if you don't have garbage, believe it or not. But we managed to go in, and we did a ceremony. And here's the problem. It was disgusting. It was garbage all over the place. And the security guard at the time, he says, wait a minute, give me a second. And he goes behind a whole garbage pile, and he brings back a small calabaza, a squash. It was nice and small. It was beautiful. And he says, hey, we got all this stuff growing back there, and beans and so on. And at that point, yeah, they started to cry. And she realized where he was going was the organic farm. And it was still growing food. It was still producing food, even though garbage was on top of it. I posted some photos of that. I'll make sure I get a post some photos of the garbage and so on next video. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Garbage dump over a historical bate Yucayeke. Okay, so what happened? Naguake was not getting much support from the government. They weren't getting much support from the local community, especially the Christian community, which personally I felt they were very harsh, claiming that a lot of our traditions were satanic, and it really wasn't appropriate for their children. But yeah, they kept trying. She kept trying. She included the families, and the families saw the beauty in the culture. Even the Catholic Church opened their doors, believe it or not, for dance performances and so on. You know, this is like, you know, like let's confront this here, but in a good way. The way the Taínos would, the way our ancestors would do it. You know, through food, through dance, music. Schools allowed her to create bate so the children can learn so about the bate so they can dance. And I got the staff in one of those bates. So here's the thing. The funding was down to zero. It was very hard to sustain the community with no land, with no support, and so on. So pretty much the community went underground. The community still exists. I recently went back in November to meet up with the Cesar, who's the Bejique. He was one of the last Bejiques. He's our firekeeper. Um, I was able to meet some of the families who still are active in a sense of the living the tradition, the culture. Because here's the thing: Naguake is not an organization. Naguake is not a cultural center. Nahuatl is the people of the land, the people of the abundant land. So I know there's a lot of Puerto Ricans out there. There's a lot of academics that they look at us and they call us Neo-Taíno. You know, they think we're crazy. We think they're nuts. But guess what? Come with me. I challenge you. I'll take you to Comedio. I'll take you to Yawacoa. Come on, I'll show you those families. You know, have dinner with them. Let them talk to you. Let the children talk to you in Taino. See what you have to say. But you probably won't do that because, cowards love to write on their keyboards, Well, come on, man. Let's take a train. I mean, train. Let's take not a bus. Let's take a plane to Borinquen. Let's go. I'll show you some nice families. But because of all this hostility and negativity, it's underground right now. And I'm coming out of the ground to tell you all we're still alive and well. Okay? And many of the Naguakeños are still there. And if you are Naguakeño and you're seeing this video, please contact me. I'll gladly continue to keep the vision of Nahuake alive and well. There's a lot of work to be done. We're still trying to get some land. Um, there's people that still want to do the farming. There's still elders who want to teach it. Um, but guess what? We are following an ancestral strategy that's very old. You stay quiet. You stay in the background. You go up those mountains. Let people do all the talking. Let them say all they want. Yeah, tell them we don't exist. In the meantime, we're dancing. We're having fun. But I understand that the naysayers and all the leaders and all the erasure people, they're never going to understand because they're not going to come with me. But if you decide to change your mind, come, come. And if you're not a hater, if you're not part of the genocidal campaign, folks, if you want to come, hit me up. TainoFunHouse at proton.me. We have access to many of the sacred sites. There's one video that I posted in one of the Guanara ceremonies that we do. That's still very much active. Just hit me up. Um, those are pretend Indians, aka haters. Yeah, and they call us pretend Indians. They call us that. But I had to make this video. I want to use this forum to say there's plenty of Naguakeños who are alive and well. They're never going to go on camera because they know who they are and they don't have to defend themselves. But because Yare Melendez is not with us anymore, she died in 2021. I feel like I have to protect and honor the name of Naguake. So we're alive and well. We're alive and well. We're alive and well. We don't need DNA, but we need each other to keep the community alive and well. So I just want to say that the Nahuatl community, led by figures such as the late Dr. Yere Melendez, they did establish a physical presence on land that held deep historical significance, believed to be the site of an ancient pre-Columbian Taino village, a sacred bate, and indigenous burial grounds. You know, why would people do this? Because they believed it, they knew it, they saw the evidence. So the community mission is cultural sustainability, ecological stewardship, education, and operating community programs. So right now we don't have any school that's teaching the language. Um, but in the future, we're going to try to get some funding, get some yucayekes to work together and, to protect the land, to protect the culture. It doesn't have to be one yucayeke doing all the work. It has to be all of us together. And I think there's more of us now, right now, than those that think we're fake, that Tainos don't exist, that I don't exist, that you don't exist. It's all right. There's always gonna, to know the light, you have to know the dark. To know cold, you have to know hot. This is our dualism. So let it feed us. So all you naysayers, keep telling us we don't exist. Okay, and we'll tell you, hey, come. We'll show you we exist. And we're not gonna beat you up. Let's play a Batu game. Let's have some yuca. Let's get some mavi. Let's play some dominoes. How about that? Hey, let's do a little gambling. How about that? Hey, it's part of the tradition. So, guys, I'd like to thank you all for being here. I just wanted to put these words out, put out in the universe that Nahuake is alive and well. We're just not like it used to be, right? Things change, things evolve, people evolve, communities evolve, and there's many Nahuaqueños who still do their work, and a lot of children who are now adults who who know the language. So, Borinquen will always be indigenous land. Hold on a second. Whoa, where did it go? Oh, it fell off. That's right. Borinquen will always be indigenous land. This is who we are. And we have to defend it no matter what. But we do it through nonviolence. We do it through the sharing of our gifts, music, dance, and so on. This is how we take on the hater. We show them that we're still alive and well. Yeah, I got this from Elvis from Boricua Power. I got this cool. And this is the resistance belt. That means the Tainos were the champions of resistance. That's right. We're still here. So guys, thank you again. We'll be back. I'll be back with more lives to show you some more evidence. I'm trying to do some videos of when I went to Nahuake, and I'll show you that we're alive and well. But right now, the community wants to be down low, but that's all right. If you ever want to visit, let me know. I'll try to work it out. God bless you all. Bo Watukan. Blessings. And thank you once again for downloading the show live and in the future. Peace out.